Hello, today we're going to be looking at what to do with your answer of a math problem. How do you handle sig figs with that? So to start, I've got a couple instruments that I want to read here. We've got a graduated cylinder, and we would read that, if you can remember from before, we would read this as 3.0, and this one we would read as 10.00 grams. Forgot deciliters on the other one. Now, if I when I record 10.00, what I really mean is it could be 9.99, or maybe it's 9 or 10.01. And when I record 3.0, what I really mean is it could be 2.9, maybe it's 3.1, somewhere around there. How many sig figs are in the first number? Is it 4, 2, or 1? That's 4 sig figs. Remember, these follow the right rule. They're to the right of a number and a decimal place. And this one would have 2 sig figs. Now when I divide these two numbers, 10 divided by 3, my calculator spits out a decimal place and then a lot of threes, as many threes as it'll show on the screen. And if I had a bigger screen, it would show more threes because that 3 repeats. So I took two numbers that had a certain amount of precision, and I divided them, and I got a number which looks like it has infinite precision because it's got that repeating 3. So there's a problem here. I took imperfect numbers and I got a perfect number. So what that means is I need to round. Okay, so this is the same rounding as we did before. This is the rules for multiplication and division. When you multiply or divide two numbers, this is what you do to figure out the sig figs of your answer. You do the math. You look at how many sig figs you had in each number that you multiplied or divided. You find the least number of sig figs of those 2 or 3, and then you round your answer to the least number of sig figs. Okay. So let's go through a couple examples here. So we've got 25 times 3. So we're going to count the number of sig figs in 25. Well, that's 2, obviously. And the number of sig figs in 3, that's 1. So we've got 2 sig figs and 1 sig fig. 1 is less than 2, so I'm going to round my answer to 2 sig figs. So when I do that, I'm going to get, I forgot to put I'm going to try to draw on the screen here, because I'm going to need to do that, especially when we do addition, subtraction. And it doesn't really work that well, so I'll do my best. So 80, and my answer would have units of meters squared. Okay, because I'm rounding that to 1 sig fig. 120 and 31.1. So we're going to multiply those and get 32, 72, 32, 30, 37, 32. I can read. So the first number has got 2 sig figs. The 31.1 has got 3 sig figs. 2 is less than 3, so I'm going to round my answer to 2 sig figs. So rounding just like before, we'd get 3700. That's a 0. And the unit would be a gram times a liter. A gram times a liter. The next example, 0.0005 times 1,089. Well, my first number has 1 sig fig, and my next one has 4. So 1 is obviously less than 4. So I'm going to round this to 1 sig fig. So 0.5. And you don't need the 0 in front of the decimal place. That's not required. And the unit on that would be a centimeter. Now I need to. The fourth example, we've got each of those numbers has got 3 sig figs, so I'm going to round my answer to 3 sig figs. So 302.26. So that'd be 302, and that would be meters cubed. Meters cubed. The next one, I've got 0.600. That has 3 sig figs, and so does 0.500. So my answer should have 3 sig figs. So what do I do to give that number 3 sig figs? I put a 0 and a 0, so 0.300 would be my correct answer. The next one, you probably can't read, but it says 21 people times 146 pounds per person. Now 21 people, that doesn't have 2 sig figs. Let's see if you can figure out how many sig figs 21 people has. Well, how did I arrive at my people number? Did I get out a people meter, my people ruler? No, I counted. So remember, when we count, we have infinite sig figs. So what has fewer sig figs? Infinity or 3, and 3 does. So we're going to round this answer to 3070, and people will cancel out with person, and so my answer is going to have units of pounds. Pound. My writing looks even worse than it does in real life on this screen. So that's how you do multiplication. Division, you do the same way. So what we would do is round this answer. We got 3 sig figs, 2 sig figs. We would round this to 2 sig figs. So this would be 5.1. How many sig figs does this number have? At 2. That left rule says that 0 is not a sig fig. So we'd round this to 2 sig figs, and we get 250 grams per milliliter. Forgot the unit on the last one. The unit on the first one would be meter, and then this one would be 4.00 miles per hour. Okay, addition, subtraction. Now this rule is completely different. You have to follow the addition, subtraction rule when you do addition, subtraction. Otherwise, you'll get the wrong answer. People tend to like the multiplication division rule because it's easier, but you can only use the multiplication division rule when you're doing multiplication division. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the numbers and I'm going to line the decimal. I'm going to line them up so the decimal places line up. I'm going to circle the guess digit in each number. I'm going to look for the guess digit that's in the biggest place value. I'm going to add or subtract like normal, and then I'm going to round my answer to the place value that I found out in the third step. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take 50. Oh, I need to set it up so I'm drawing. So 53 and 72.1. I'm going to get 125.1. Okay, so notice I've lined up so that the ones place is in line, the ones place is in line, the tens place is in line. This doesn't have a decimal place, but if it did, it would be right here. And we added and subtracted like normal. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to circle the guess digit in each number that we added or subtracted, so the 3 and the 1. Okay, then we're going to look for the guess digit that's in the bigger place value, or the one that's further left, basically. And we're going to circle the number in my answer below that. And then we're going to round off everything to the right of what I circled in my answer, so 125. So there's quite a few more steps. I mean, ultimately what you're doing here is you're looking for the guess digit that's in the biggest place value, and you're rounding to that place value, which you can probably do in your head after a few times of doing this. But that's the kind of the longer way of doing it. Let's do another one here. We've got 8.52. My decimal place barely showed up there, and 6, and we're going to get 14.52. My decimal places aren't showing up. There we go. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to circle the guess digit in each number. So that's the 2 and the 6. We're going to look for the guess digit that's in the bigger place value, which when they're lined up like this is the one that's further left. So that's the 6. We're going to circle my answer. We're going to circle the digit below that. So that's the 4. And we're going to round off everything to the right of that 4. So we get 15. Now notice that if I had used the multiplication division rule, I would have said, oh, 3 sig figs, 1 sig fig, keep 1 sig fig in your answer, and you'd round that to 10. But that's not what you do here. Okay, you would get the wrong answer if you use the multiplication division rule. So make sure you use the right rule for the right case. Let's see. Let's do 150 and 16, and we'll get 1. That didn't go according to plan. Let's try that again. Let's try 15. No, not again. Well, you try this one at your desk. 150 and 16. 1, 1, 5, 0, and 16 gives me 166. So circling the guess digit in each one, we've got the 5 is our guess digit and the top number. 6 is the guess digit and the lower number. And so now we circle the number that's below the leftmost circle or guess digit. So we're going to circle below the 6 here, and we're going to round off everything to the right of that. So that would be 170. Okay, why don't we try a division or a subtraction problem or so? Let's see. So 13. I need to set up the drawing. So 13 did not do that. 3 times the term. So 13.4 minus 2. Notice again I'm lining up the place values. So circle the guess digit. Oh, do my math here. I've got 1.4. So circle the guess digit. Why is it not circling? Because it's zooming in. So circle the guess digit. Circle the guess digit. And of course you can't see the bottom number, which the bottom number is 11.4. So what we would do is circle that one that's in the middle of the other two numbers, and we would round that to 11. So round that to 11, not 11.0, but 11. Let's see. So what about let's work 5520 minus 26. Let's 5500 minus 26 yields 5474. Okay, so let's circle the guess digits, and that would be the 5 and the 5500, the 5 in the hundreds place. And then this one would circle the 6. So now we look for the circle that's in the bigger tens place. So that'd be the 5 in the hundreds place. And we're going to circle our answer number below that. And we're going to round this off so that everything else is not a sig fig. So we're going to round this to 5500. So what we end up with is the same number that we started with before we subtracted, which happens sometimes. And that is pretty much how you do math with sig figs. So, but keep in mind when you're doing this, the multiplication and division, that is one rule, and it's the number of sig figs that matter. When you're doing addition or subtraction, it's a different rule, and it's the place value that matters. So keep that in mind when you're doing these.